Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts, Tom Vasel and Sam Healey.
Hi, I'm Tom Vasel.
Box is upside down, and I'm Sam Healey.
Hey, do not turn off the camera, okay? Turn off your video is what I meant. What I meant is, don't stop this video because some people are going to see the box of Risk.
Don't stop the video.
Right, but anyhow, this says Risk Europe, but this is not Riskish at all, in a sense. There's a few similarities to Risk, but I'm just saying that up because when I first pulled this out, I think you were like, Risk? And people come around and like, why are you guys playing Risk?
Exactly.
I think we had at least 5 people say it to us when we were playing them.
Risk.
I used to play that. But this is a completely different game that's being marketed under the label of Risk, and it's a Risk cousin.
A lot like the Risk Star Wars edition was not very risky.
All right, let's take a look at how it plays. Each player has 4 different units. You have foot soldiers, you have cavalry, you have archers, and then you have some sort of artillery or catapult. You'll notice that each one of these some of them have moving parts on them, so you actually put them together. They each have a different look. They're pretty much the same. This has to be maybe one of my favorite models in any game. I just love these guys running with the battering ram. So these are the 4 units that you have, and then players, there is a ton of units in the game. Let's look at the board. Each player is going to start with one of the capital cities in Europe, and so you're going to pick which capital city you want. And each of these cities is going to come with some sort of special ability. You'll get this token to show that you control that city. So for example, London, when you tax them, you're going to place 2 archers there for free. So you get that, you're going to place a castle in your city, and you're also going to place a crown. The whole point of this game is to get 7 of these crowns. And so each city that you capture is worth a crown. And you'll notice the cities that you can start in, these cities have kind of a gold sheen on them, so you can tell the difference between the starting cities. Each player is going to get a set of 8 action cards. And one person's going to be chosen to go first. That person has the starting token. And then everyone's going to pick 2 cards from their hand. They're going to play these cards face down. And then starting with the starting player, you'll turn your top one up and do one of the 2 actions on it. Everyone goes around the table, then you'll turn the next one up and do one of the 2 actions on that. And then we continue on. Except that the next turn, when you pick a card, you're picking from your remaining cards. You can't play these cards again until you've played all your cards, in which case you get them back in your hand. So what do the different cards do? Well, some cards allow you to tax or to spend. When you're taxing, you're going to get money, and the money is going to be equal to if you control the city that you're taxing, you're going to get the number that's in there, and you're also going to get 1 for each empty territory attached to it. And in fact, let's say I have Zurich and Paris here and Lorraine. And if you notice, they are also attached with a line here from Lorraine up to London. So if I tax Zurich, I'm going to get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, if your regions get split up, obviously you have to pick which region you're going to tax, but taxing can get you a lot of money if you have all your stuff connected to each other. You can also spend, in which case you're going to be able to put out units wherever you have a city or castle, and the things that you can buy footmen for 1 coin, archers for 2, cavalry for 3, a siege weapon for 10, they're pretty powerful, a castle for 12, or a crown card for 10. A crown card in the basic game is simply another crown. So that's another thing that you can keep track of as you try to get 7 victory points. Players also can expand. There's a card that lets you expand into another territory, which lets you move from one territory to another. And if there's other units in that territory, after everyone has played their cards, there will be an attack or maneuver, which is basically I can move as many units from one spot to another spot as long as there's a connected supply lines. You always have to leave at least 1 person behind when you go into a new territory. Split expand lets you go from one territory into up to 2 different territories. Also has a maneuver on it. And then, so those are basically the different kinds of cards I have. We have expand, split expands, and taxes and spending. However, some of the cards at the top of them will have something else on them. So for example, if you play King Me, you'll take the first player marker. So the last person to play this one in a round will go first next round. Here you can add 3 footmen to a city or 4 to a castle. And this one here, you can do a siege assault where one of your siege engines, if you have one on the board, can attack an area that's next to it and just basically shoot some dice at them. So this can be done before or after whichever action you pick. So I'm going to use this fortify whether I expand or maneuver. Now combat. Combat's obviously a big part of this game. It takes place in this order here. There's a little card here. First, each player, if they have siege weapons, are going to roll 2 dice, 2 6-sided dice for each siege weapon that they have. And they get a hit on a 3+. The defender chooses which units get hit. Then the archers roll 1 die for each archer, and they hit on a 5 or higher. Then the cavalry roll, and they each roll 1 die for each cavalry and a 3 or higher. Then all units will roll, and this is typical risk rolls. If you don't know, the attacker will roll up to 3 dice as long as they have at least 3 units in the battle. And the defender will roll up to 2 dice as long as they have at least 2 units in the battle. If you have less, you roll less dice. So the attacker rolls a 6, 2, and a 2. The defender rolls a 2 and a 1. You compare the highest results, attacker wins. You compare the second highest results, attacker wins. Here the attacker would beat the defender, and the defender would have to lose 2 units. If the attacker rolled a 3, 2, and a 1, we compare the highest, a 6 and a 3. The defender wins. We compare the next highest, a 2 and a 1. The attacker wins. If there's a tie, ties go to the defender. And after you have a roll of regular, I call it risk combat, then you start again going through rank 1, and you keep going. There's no retreating in this until one army has been defeated. Castles allow you to force once per turn your opponent to re-roll the dice of one of the ranks. And that's pretty much it. You're trying to get the different crowns, and the first person to 7 crowns wins. When you capture a city, that city will that crown goes to you. Also, it gives you special things. For example, Madrid. Every time you do a tax, and there's a city Madrid is involved, you get 4 footmen for free. Here, when you buy a siege weapon, you get 4 footmen with it for free. Rome is worth 2 crowns instead of 1. Stockholm, every time you're the attacker and win a battle, you get 4 silver coins from the reserve. So some of the cities have special abilities that you take when you conquer that city. In the advanced game, the crown cards are actually become missions. Whenever you play the card that gives you the first player token, you'll take one of these, 2 of these, and pick one. And if you control this at the end of your turn, 3 castles at the end of a round, then you can say, I do this. That counts as a crown, so it gives you another point, and it gives you a special ability. You now can place 3 footmen into any non-city territory you control when you use the fortify action. So these are different missions that are involved, and when you do whatever it says, complete that goal, not only will you get a crown for points at the end of the game, but also a special ability. That's how you play. First of 7 crowns is the winner. Okay, first of all, the components in here. This almost, I feel like if this had come out in the 80s, this would be number 5 in the Game Master line from Milton Bradley.
This would have blown people's minds back in the 80s.
No, well, I mean, this was very similar to Fortress America and Axis and Allies.
I guess so,
I'm saying
yeah.
this, and in fact, I think the whole game has a similar feel to that.
Yeah.
It has plastic pieces of different models, although, incidentally, they're different for each faction, which is cool.
Yeah.
It has, a board, and you're rolling dice and chucking dice to attack each other.
It's got a board, you say?
Is it better than Risk?
Yes. That's not saying much.
Is it better than Risk? Every game behind us. Every game I gotten rid of in the last year. No, that's not true. But I'm not a huge fan of Risk. Are you?
Not really. Not entirely. And that's one of the reasons I was very apprehensive about the Star Wars edition last year. Or was that 2 years ago?
No, it was last year.
So, of course, I saw this and I was like, oh, okay, it's on a European board instead of a world board. Okay, that's funny. The pieces were also pretty cool, too, especially the artillery pieces that each person has. They're different.
Really neat.
One's a ballista. One is a bunch of dudes carrying a tree trunk.
Yeah, it's cool.
I guess those are the Scottish guys.
I still want to know how they're attacking a territory next to them. They're like,
I'm telling you, they're Scottish. They're from the Highland Games. That's what it is. So
that's Risk. That's who it is.
So anyway, I was apprehensive at best.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of Risk at all. I like the idea of Risk, but the fact is it comes down to like 20 armies against 3, and sometimes the 3 wins, and who gets Australia first.
Yeah.
In this game, you definitely, combat is the main focus of this game. There's nothing else really. It's taxing, building troops, and combat. And having a diverse army really matters. It's hard to like say what the best, I mean, obviously siege engines are the best, but if you don't have a bunch of footmen in there to take up the hits, that can hurt.
And that's where you can already feel kind of a departure from Risk, because in Risk they were all kind of vanilla.
Right.
Vanilla troops. You know, you just have this massive humanity attacking another massive humanity, but this one you actually have to have different kinds of troops in there.
Now the footmen in this game are basically just meat shields. They're really just there to take the hits. Archers are cool because they shoot before the cavalry, but if they miss, the cavalry is going to wipe them out. And that's kind of thematic. I like that idea. The combat is much more interesting, but despite the combat being much more interesting, do realize it is a bunch of dice chucking.
It is.
It is still going to be, sometimes you have a much better force and you will lose. It's very possible, but I think it's interesting. I like that the Risk combat is just part of it, and that there's all the other stuff shooting at each other and everything. And you're going to want to fight a lot in this game, again, to win.
Right.
Now, where I think the game really shines is in the card play. I love the idea of playing 2 cards and then 2 more, and so some turns you're taxing, some turns you're expanding. I thought that was a really cool idea. The only thing I wish slightly was that each player's cards were slightly different to show their faction.
Yeah, maybe.
But you do have the city tiles, I guess, to differentiate.
Yeah, that might be asking a little bit too much from Hasbro, especially for a mass market game like this one. But I think what they do have here is fairly engaging as far as you are basically playing Risk at the very basic core, but there's a lot of stuff on top of it that makes it not feel like Risk.
Yeah, this is one of those games where I say if you hate Risk, you still might like this game. But if you don't like war games where you're chucking dice, then you probably won't like this one either, because it's...
Go ahead and pass.
Now, the game is all about... It's a good length because of the crowns. And 7 crowns, they picked a good number, because you will find, oh, I got 5. Ooh, those last 2 are harder to get.
Right.
Then there's the simple versus advanced game. The simple game will be even faster because someone will eventually win because they can just buy the crowns. The advanced game's a little bit longer. Those missions are pretty hard to do.
Some of them are, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them are much easier, some of them are harder, and that's where a little bit of the luck of the draw can come into.
I really wish they had like 2 or 3 times the number of cards, though. I didn't like the fact that there was only a certain amount of those.
Like 10, right? Or 8.
Yeah, something like that. You could each get 2.
Right.
There's just very few of them. But still, it's an interesting idea, and I do like that they give you a special ability. I almost wish that they had some of the cards would give you like 1 crown, but have a cool special ability, and some would give you 2 crowns, but a negative ability.
That might be too easy, though.
But either way, it's an interesting idea, and I like that the different cities on the board mean different things. We mentioned
different powers that come with each of the cities,
that's really neat. Although I think some are clearly better than others, but
very so.
What did you think of the taxing, where you can tax and get a whole pile of money off the board and then build units?
It's better than turning in you know, sets
Amen
of cards. It's much better that way because you can kind of plan. You don't have to wait where luck of the draw is like your taskmaster and you're attacking this thing just to hopefully draw the card that you need. It's much, much better than that because you can plan ahead. You can choose from your cards when you're going to tax. It doesn't have to happen at any given time. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it because it made that part of that card collection just kind of go away. That
card collection was always kind of a silly mechanism anyway.
It is, yeah.
So overall, like I said, I thought the components were good. With the one exception is I thought they could have had some more dice of another color. In Risk, you always have dice of 2 colors, so that the attacker and defender. Here, they're all the same. They're not quality dice anyway. But that's just a minor thing, but it is something I noticed because I'm used to saying, okay, red dice are attackers, black are defenders, or whatever.
True.
And in this one, didn't have that.
Yeah.
But overall, I enjoyed it. Now, it didn't blow my mind.
No.
Okay, part of my, like, woo, is because it's not Risk, right? But let's say it wasn't Risk at all.
What blew my mind was that it didn't take all day, and we had fun.
Well, right. But that's good, though. I think that's what the game's looking for. So for me, this one gets a single thumbs up. I gotta give it 3 guys throwing a log up in the air, okay? One of
That's 3 thumbs up.
well, okay, no, they just threw one
Technically,
long.
there's 3 guys, so that's 6 thumbs up.
Anyhow, I like it. I pretty much put this in the same category as Axis and Allies and games like that, where there's a fun strategic things that you can do. They modernize the game by having card play, by knowing when to take turn order, by having combat at the end after everybody moves, by using a few of the mechanisms from Risk, maneuvering and a little bit of the combat, but not too much, and by having good production values. For me, it's a solid game, so I like it. I mean, I don't love it, but I wouldn't be upset if we're like, you must play this. Okay, let's try it out.
Right. I'm going to go ahead and give it also 1 thumb up, and I think I like it slightly less than Tom does, but that's not really saying a whole lot. I like a lot of the things that come in this game. I'm not going to be clamoring to play it, but if it hits the table, I'll be happy with it. I'll be fine with it. I like how the cities give you kind of a variable player power type of feel. I like the card play. The production quality of the miniatures isn't, cool mini or not, but they also aren't horrible either. So there's a lot going for this game. So I would give it a try if you could, but if you can't, look into it a little bit more, and you might be able to. You might want to pick it up, just to give it a try.
I think if this had a different theme, like if this was Risk Star Wars or Risk whatever, I think I might like it even more. I think the Risk Europe thing is slightly boring. It's been done to death.
I guess.
But that might have raised it up by half a point or whatever. But either way, don't run away because it's Risk.
Right.
You're looking for a game to play with kids who, when they want to chuck dice and stuff, a family-style combat game. This is pretty good.
Very good.
Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Sam Healey. See you on the flip side.
Thanks for watching our review today. For more information about board games, as well as the #1 board game audio podcast, check out Dicetower.com for reviews, interviews, and more. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.